Today, I'm going to show you what it really means to be in the world and not of the world. I'm going to empower you to take a retreat. Hello, hello, hello. You are listening to the Manifesto on Purpose show. I am delighted to be your host, Kimbaley. I'm here to help you elevate your mind to a higher level of consciousness. Thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you for all of those people that you share this with. And last but not least, thank you for subscribing here and on the website at Kimbaley Kimbaley.com. The God in me loves the God in you. I always feel so much energy when I say that to you, so I hope that you can feel it too. Before we get started, I want to let you know that the show is brought to you by Astro-Numerologist LLoyd Strayhorn and the Star 8 mobile numerology app. You can get that app on a Star 8, that's ASTAR, the number 8.com. You can also download it on Google Play, the App Store, or go to linktree/numbers and you and check out some of the other amazing services and products he has to offer there. I also ask that you check out Kimbaley.com as well, especially if you haven't gotten your 2025 astronumerology forecast for the year. You can also get your compatibility report. You can get the personal report, and you can also get these reports for your business. And please do not let this go over your head, because when you align your business numerology with your numerology, it's a recipe for success. It helps you with branding, finding out who your target audience should be. It lets you know who your business will attract, your colors, your fonts. It allows you to know so much about your business. So please don't sleep on this. This is something that I'm going deeper into. You can pick up those reports at Kimbaley, KIMBALEY.com, and just stay on and listen, because I will be releasing an episode on Astro-Numerology Reveal to let you know how these reports and consultations can benefit your business. Since we got those things done, let's jump into our story for today. But first, I have to ask you, let me know down in the comments, have you ever been on a retreat? And if you've ever been on a retreat, let me know how that retreat made you feel. And if you have not ever been on a retreat and someone comes up to you and say, "Hey, you've won a free retreat. Where would you want that retreat to be? And what would you expect from that retreat?" Well, today I'm going to talk about a very special retreat. Peaceful and serene was not a fairy tale for me. It was a real life experience. There were quite a few things that were not as great as I would like for them to be during my childhood, but they did not distract me because I was on retreat. I know when I say a retreat, you probably imagine me in some tropical place near a body of water. No, but my retreat was just as refreshing and more. We lived in what we call back home the boonies. It was a long, isolated road that did not have many houses on it. As for the few houses on that road, they were very distant and far between from one another. The property we lived on was huge. I'm talking nearly 2 acres of land here. Not just any old acres. The land was filled with peach trees that produced some of the sweetest little peaches that I've ever tasted. There were a few apple trees. One produced green apples while the other one produced red. There was a grapevine that was so big that it looked like a tent. When the sun was beaming down on a hot summer day, we'd walk under the grapevine to pick all the sweet muscadine grapes to our heart's content. There was a tree that produced a fruit that we didn't even know, but that did not stop us from eating them. It looked like a cherry tree and it was sweet as well. So if it was sweet, we were going to eat it. And leaving the best for last, this land even produced during the cooler months. There was a huge pecan tree in the front yard that we used to make all kinds of tasty treats or eat right out of the shell. There was also some other things that made this home the perfect retreat. We didn't have a telephone. This was during the days of the landline. No cell phones during this time. And of course, we were so far off the beaten path that everywhere was long distance. So it was no benefit for us to have a telephone because everywhere we called, all of our friends were long distance, which means you had to pay additional money on your phone bill every month. We didn't have cable either. The cable companies just would not service people that were isolated. If there were not enough people willing to purchase cable, the cable company would not even service that area. We had to be like children and actually play. With all of this going on outside and my vast library inside, peace and quiet, I was always on retreat. One day, the unexpected happened. My mom decided that she was going to move to another state entirely. So we had to leave our retreat. That was a tough moment for me. It was bittersweet. However, I guess my mom began to see how peaceful and serene that house really was because within 2 years later, she moved right back into the same house. Perhaps she was able to appreciate that living in that house was like being in the world, but not of the world. In life, you have to know when and how to retreat from distractions because the distractions will hold you back. Don't let the distractions hold you back, please. To retreat simply means to withdraw. Now, I need you to pay close attention to this next sentence. There seems to be a lot of confusion and a lot going on in our world and society today. Seems to be is key. It seems to be, right? But it's really not. What's happening is distraction. Not distraction where whomever you think the adversary is has another trick up their sleeve while you're looking at something else. It's a distraction because you focusing on these things is what's actually causing them to happen. The reason why it seems to be so easy, there go that word again, it seems to be so easy to manifest the negative because you are more focused on the negative in most cases. Don't get me wrong, there are so many reminders all over the world. It makes it fairly easy to chime in, and the more you do so, it will become your belief. From there, it goes from a belief into passion, and adding those emotions in prioritizes that belief, and you'll then find yourself living in it because it is your primary focus. All of those things that you set intentions for, they take a back seat. These things that are distracting you has now become priority. You then become a product of the world, making it hard to manifest anything else outside of belief. Today, I'm putting you in timeout. You need a break from this physical reality. You just exist here. You are spiritual. Your home, your retreat is within. You need to set time aside when you are not in the world, but of the world. To explain to you a way that you can do this, I'm going to go back to my example. However, I want you to remember that your retreat is your retreat. Your retreat is you withdrawing from everything that's going on around you and taking time to go within. Whatever way you decide to do that is perfectly fine. I'm just going to give you some tips based on the story that I told today. One thing that we heard about is isolation. Sometimes it's good to be by yourself just so you can hear yourself think. A lot of times we may not even be aware, but some of the information that we are getting from other people, no matter how closely we're paying attention to, that information is still sinking in. An example of this is the very reason why I do not watch violent things before I go to bed. Like the last thing I would watch on television is not going to be something that is violent or something that is negative. You may think that these things are not becoming a part of you because you are not really paying attention to those things. However, your subconscious mind is always listening. So these things are playing, and the importance of this time of the night is because your brainwave state is low enough that it's easier to make suggestions to the subconscious mind. Now, pay attention to this. How many times have you ever watched something like that before sleep and noticed that you went to sleep and dreamed about it or had a bad dream during the night? And that one rolled right into the technology. We have so many gadgets that are so useful to us today, but we have to remember that, first of all of these gadgets, from the TV to your cell phone to your computer, all of these things carry a frequency and a vibration. And all of these things that you're watching on these devices carry a frequency and a vibration. And if you are constantly watching the same type of things, you are playing into the repetition that the subconscious mind needs to create a program. In my retreat location in childhood, we did not have a telephone. So we were not focused on what was happening on the phone. We had time to use our thinking to think about other things and to be creative. So, what all this boils down to is you need to take a time out every day from your devices. There are few habits that I have created just for that purpose only. One of those purposes is I refuse to even be near my device if I'm eating. I don't like to be on the phone, and I know there's some people that have to have the phone with them at all times. We eat for nourishment, and your cellular device is not necessarily for that. So I just take that time and eat my food and just get to the messages later. I have late night phone practices as well. A lot of times I do like to stay up late. However, I don't care how late it is and whether I'm awake or not. If a call comes through, I don't answer. And I get that from my grandmother because she raised us to know that after 9 o'clock, nobody should be calling. So I don't answer calls after 9. I don't respond to most texts after 9. And when it's bedtime, the phone goes off completely. In the mornings, I do not turn the phone on unless I feel like I'm well rested and I feel energized and ready for my day. And even then, I have a time limit of when I answer calls. So that's another thing that you can consider as well as your retreat. Because when those messages start coming in, it is an invitation to the world. So take those times first thing in the morning to get to know yourself because we're constantly changing. So get to know yourself in the beginning of your morning to see how you're feeling that day, to check in. It's necessary to continue to do that to remind yourself of who you are, regardless of what's going on around you. When I was telling the story about my retreat home, one of the features of that home happened to be the abundance of fruit on the property. You know, we became mini chefs, my siblings and I, because we would take those peaches and we would take those apples and we would experiment like scientists and we would make different things. In the summertime, we would make some of the most delicious fruit juices, but that's neither here nor there. What I wanted you to get from that part of the message is nature, being out in nature. You should constantly find time to be out in nature. It's so serene and so peaceful in nature. What I happen to do is I'll go to a park. And when I go to the park, I'm not paying attention to my devices or anything. They're just there for emergency purposes. And I take that time at the park to really get lost within myself. Because you see people around you, but 9 times out of 10, they're there doing the same thing that you're doing. So most people are not going to approach you, but you have time to soak in and take in the nature. And that has a whole different energy in it within itself, especially when you leave your devices behind, and not necessarily leave them behind, but don't pay attention to them. You can have them there for emergency purposes, but don't be out in the park and you're on your cell phone. That totally defeats the purpose of being there. And that's especially a tip for those of you who feel like, oh, there's a lot of people in my home. I don't have the space to be alone. You can go out, you can take a walk. You don't even have to make it to the park, but the park is swell. Go outside of your home and just take a walk, or sometimes just go out in the place that you live, the town or the city, and just ride around and explore different places. What I'm saying is, it's easy to find a retreat when you need one. And you really need one every day to help you be in the world, but not of the world. We have to survive in this physical existence. However, we're spiritual individuals. We need to feed our souls. And not only that, you need to hear yourself think to know that everything is not always as it seems. The world may seem to be a crazy, frustrating place, but only when you look at it from that perspective. Today, I'm asking you to take a retreat. I'm asking you to withdraw and begin to rely on your inner wisdom and to feed your inner self. Aligning with manifestation is not as difficult as it seems to be. Just don't get distracted. I love you to life. This is how you manifest on purpose.